Hello everyone, welcome back to another Friday and another casual champion review. It's time for Ornn or Ramharg. And we got Vol here on the team as well. Oh my goodness. I'm very excited for today. One, because I just love Ornn as a champion in general, and I'm excited to talk about him because Riot doesn't seem to want to talk about him ever. But also because we're playing Ornn jungle today. It's not the best, but it is kind of funny because, you know, Ornn can craft items wherever he goes, and the health regen in jungle is so good now. He can just make items wherever and never recalls. I'm going to try and recall as little as possible this whole game. It is also just an incredible coincidence that I'm playing Ornn today, and on my team there's Volibear, which is a Swift play game that I played solo, but he's still here. It's great. You know what else is great though? Fan art section. Also, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I think one that's incredible that coincidentally we're playing Ornn, the introverted, keep away from me, I don't love anybody in that way guy on Valentine's Day is just... oh, it's wonderful. With the fan art as well, it's absolutely fantastic. Oh, I love Ornn. Ah, oh, so good. Thank you, fellas. Thank you so much. Because you don't have to recall ever with so much health regen, the one problem is that the clear speed isn't exactly the fastest, but that can be helped a little bit by rushing a Sunfire or whatever the other one's called. Anyway, Ornn's lore, there's actually not too much to it, surprisingly. I think at this point, most people know that Ornn is one of the primal spirit gods, demigods of the Freljord, alongside his sister Anavia, brother Volibear, and there's a bunch of other spirit gods, demigods like the Seal Sister, the Iron Boar, and there's Hastrier now, and apparently a ton others. I've already had my grievances about that in the Aurora one, but just for like a quick recap of that, I'm not really a big fan that all of a sudden there's a ton of these demigods everywhere. I guess to me, I always felt like the demigods represented the primal forces of the world because they kind of helped shape the Freljord, you know? Ornn is fire, Anavia's ice, Volibear's lightning, Seal Sister's water. The Iron Boar is presumably earth or metal. Hastrier, I don't know, wind. Regardless, that's also a big part of Ornn's story is that he helped to literally shape the land, challenging the planet itself to a fight. And doing so, he caved the earth and made caverns. He punched up the earth and created mountains. And after millennia of fighting, he just said, oh, thank you, planet, for the match. And the planet, I guess, just like, oh, you're welcome, Ornn. Here's the planet's core, and gave him access to the primordial fire of the planet, which he is now also tasked with protecting. Because of that, he dedicated himself to protecting this forge and decided to put it to good use, using the primordial flame to hone his craftsmanship skills and create great weapons and tools. Brother, she won't be your Valentine, brother, I promise you. The sad thing is, in the modern day, most people don't even know of Ornn's great deeds and tales, as a lot of it has been scrubbed from history, even though a lot of his work is still lying around the Freljord today. Ornn's shield is technically a door that was made for a Troll King as a vault to keep all his treasures in. The Howling Abyss Bridge itself was built by Ornn. Fish dinner. But it's not like Ornn never had followers. In the old days, he actually had a whole group of people dedicated to him called the Hearthblood, and they reveled in Ornn's dedication to his craft, attempting to follow in his footsteps and forge great relics like he did. Ornn, though, didn't really show his appreciation for them. He was very introverted and distant in a sort of grumpy old man kind of way, but he did secretly really care for the Hearthblood and appreciated their dedication to their own craft. And there was peace for a time. That was until his brother Volibear and his followers appeared in his domain. Seeking to continue their warmongering across the Freljord, Volibear asked Ornn to craft him and his followers great weapons and armor, but Ornn refused, not seeing any point to the bloodshed, and Volibear retaliated, basically saying, well, if you don't make it for me, I'll kill all your followers. And Ornn, again, because he secretly did really care for them, decided to fight Volibear instead. The problem is they're both demigods, and the ensuing battle caused a cataclysm that wiped both the Ursine followers, I don't even remember if they were called the Ursine back then, and the Hearthblood off the map. Volibear, fed up with Ornn, decided to shred himself of the armor and weapons that Ornn had given him in the past, deciding to completely fight off the land forever, and Ornn, racked with guilt, decided that he needed to seclude himself from the rest of the population of the Freljord forever. He was devastated to lose the Hearthblood, even if he didn't really show it. They understood him. He saw the potential mortal life could have, but also how fragile they really were, and deemed, well, for their own safety. I mean, he even says it as a quote, right? Gods don't need followers, followers need gods. And if he secludes himself away, then no one will ever die trying to be like him again. However, that has been broken after centuries of isolation, as many of his siblings are also rising up and gaining new followers. He may need to put that past behind him and aid in the oncoming threat, not just from his brother, but potentially from Lysandra. This isn't very lore-friendly, Ash. Oh, this isn't lore-friendly. I'll get you. No! Life's not fair. However, he's not just reawakening off the presence of the other demigods, but also because Lysandra and the Watchers, he may need to help in the oncoming threat of the Void, which, you know, we probably could have seen if there was any kind of Void event, or the call cinematic actually led to anything. He was just kind of just sitting there making weapons, and that was it. Although I guess he has had a bit more spotlight in recent times with Aurora, and now he's assumedly best friends with her. I'm not sure if that's going to go anywhere, if he's going to actually help Aurora try and reawaken the rest of his siblings. I don't know. That's kind of where they left him. He is a bit of a myth and a legend, so he's never supposed to be the main character of any story. I get that. But it's also kind of cool to see the parallel that he has with New Skarner in a way. They took very different approaches to how this benevolent god treated their own follower base. People that didn't actually see them as monsters. In both instances, they did cherish the people who respected and made them realize what accomplishments mortals could make despite their limitations and short lifespans. The key difference is that Skarner never actually lost his people, but he did see other people becoming lost and losing their way, so he ended up becoming possessively protective. Ornn, on the other hand, did lose his people, and he couldn't stomach the idea of that happening again and never forgave himself for it happening in the first place. Even in LOR, there's a couple guys who are trying to revitalize the Hearthblood, and he's just, no, don't do it. Don't do it, boy. Just let it die. Which also, weird thing that I want to point out, in Legend of Runeterra, they got the same voice actor back for Ornn in that game. But for some reason, they gave him different voice direction. When Ornn talks, normally in League, he has this bit of an accent. So, name's Ornn, right? He says like that. But in Legend of Runeterra, he doesn't have the accent. He just goes, name's Ornn.
Name's Ornn. No further pleasantries needed. Name's Ornn. No further pleasantries needed.
That's not how Ornn talks. Anyway, I'm still happy that Ornn even got in Legend of Runeterra when that game was still getting funding. Especially because a part of me will always love Ornn. I'm a bit of a sucker for the underdog champions in the game, and Ornn certainly is an underdog champion. He's been universally just unloved by Riot for almost his entire existence, despite the fact I never understood why. Brother, this is looking dire, brother. Demon? How am I alive still? I lived for 42 seconds. Ornn was kind of a weird character to see at the start, because up till that point, the other demigods weren't really demigods yet. It was also a bit of a lore retcon of changing Anavia and Volibear to who they are now. But because of that, because it was also pre-rework Volibear, Ornn felt really weirdly out of place. I mean, Anavia is just a bird. Volley is just a polar bear. Ornn is this stumpy, half goat, half man, slightly more man. You kind of take the idea that demigods are normally just these actual animals running around, and then suddenly you go to Ornn, and now you got this guy who's just wearing clothes, and he's got braids and tools, way more humanoid in appearance, especially compared to Anavia. Volibear, you could kind of get away with that because he's a bear, but since they've updated how Volibear looks and added a bunch of fantastical elements to him, made him look slightly more humanoid, gave him those ice spikes on his back, now Ornn fits right in, but still also kind of doesn't. There's no Freljord champion in the game like him. Not just because he's a giant fire guy in a world of all the ice champions, but I think that actually does work to his benefit of being so out of place. Because in a lot of ways, Ornn's values are sort of the opposite of the base Freljordian ones. He enjoys peace and quiet. He enjoys hard work just for the sake of hard work. Food and alone time. Kind of the opposite of Freljord, where they love, yeah, fight to survive, live off the land, war and battle. And also just great contrast of how really kind of approachable he looks. I think it's a great visual contrast of having this introverted, grumpy man, but with these big bulging muscles and this big fluffy beard. Simultaneously makes him look like he could protect you from anything, but also just looks really cuddly. And I think that matches great with his personality as well, of having this big, grumpy, gruff man who's big and stubborn, but on the inside is actually a huge softie. So you have both of those elements in his design as well, of having the big muscles, the brawn, the power of the gods, but also big, cuddly looking face and fluffy beard. Just makes you want to give him a hug, you know? And I think he needs a hug too. They did make that plushie from the Aurora little mini game finally into a real thing. Normally, I would have paid for something immediately like that, and I actually was considering that when I was writing the research notes for this video. And then I remembered what Riot's doing monetization-wise, and like, maybe I don't want to give Riot Games money right now. As much as it hurts me that I want that Ornn plushie really badly. It also kind of matches the idea of people who wanted a fantasy dwarf in the game, because he does have a lot of elements of traditional dwarves, right? Even his horns almost look like the helmets they give dwarves a lot, but this big, boxy, sturdy, kind of bulky design. He's technically gigantic, but he also looks kind of short proportionally. Oh. Whoa, did you hear that? I think the brittle went off during Zhonya's? Is that how that works? It sounds a bit hypocritical to say all this stuff about him, considering how much I hark on certain Jammies for not looking like they belong to the region they do, but Ornn is this very special case where that's kind of his whole deal, is that he has hidden himself away from the Freljord, does not align with the majority of their ideals, and therefore feels appropriate to look very distinctly different. Although technically he still does have some elements that have been retroactively fitted back to him, like the Braum shield, for example, that has big ram horns on it. I don't know if they designed Ornn that way to be a ram because of that. They want to tie it back. I mean, technically, Ornn, originally his concepts were derived from the Scion rework. Or was it the opposite? I actually don't remember which way it went. I know something happened when they were developing a character that looked like Scion, but I know one way or the other they were designing a character and elements from that character both went into Scion's VGU and would later go into Ornn. I think they were originally trying to make a blacksmith champion, and then the inner furnace thing went to Scion's VGU instead. I don't remember what order it went in, but I know that they're both connected in some way. That's a good jumping off point though, because of Ornn's gameplay and the fact that he is a blacksmith character. Here you go, brother. The fact that you could upgrade items wherever you want. You're essentially a portable shop, though I think it would be amazing if everyone could buy items from Ornn. Having the whole upgrade items thing is really cool, but Riot does kind of have some problems, historically speaking anyway. I mean, every season they practically have to rework the entire system. It ironically fit the best with the mythic items. That one was the most straightforward. It's what item does Ornn upgrade? Your mythic item. Bye. You ruined everything, Kale. The unfortunate other problem with Ornn's upgrade item mechanic is that it gatekeeps him from being an actual support champion. It's the same thing like Kale, where in theory they would be an excellent support. I'd say Ornn even more so. Like a Nautilus or a Thresh, like a big tanky guy who just goes in to crowd control the enemy to death. Volibear, bit too angry these days, Volibear. Can't say that, especially in game. You're gonna get banned from League of Legends. How could you? I can't believe you just went there. What the fuck? Because the item upgrades are tied to the level cap, it means that you have to try and level up as fast as possible, i.e. top lane, to make the most out of it. Support, you get the least XP out of anyone, and so you're gonna get those item upgrades so much later than everywhere else. Maybe that's also because they didn't want Ornn to be able to upgrade the items or make items for people, because that would be kind of broken if your support could just make items for your AD carry and they never have to leave lane at all. Oh, Nami. You're no seal, sister. This is great. I don't think I've had to recall once this entire game, especially with Warmogs now. This is the beauty of Ornn Jungle. Just never leave, ever. Brother! Besides that, though, I do think the mechanic of having a portable shop and just being a blacksmith champion is just incredibly fun. And I think Ornn in general is just incredibly fun. I think a lot of tanks suffer from being too samey or too repetitive, not requiring enough skill expression. Not to say Ornn is an incredibly high-skilled character. Oh, we can beat these together, brother. Oh, and there's our friend Atreus. Oh, we did it. Oh. Volibear died. There's a lot of tanks that do similar things that Ornn does. Maokai is probably the peak example in my eyes of just the big unkillable wall of flesh. But I think while Maokai gets boring rather quickly, Ornn for me is forever fun. I think mostly because every single ability he has is a skill shot, so there's always variance in what he does. The fact that Ornn just looks a lot cooler than Maokai. Listening to Ornn's voice lines the whole time, I love how grumpy he is.
I do not need company, merely a wall to keep out company.
And the mechanics he has in general are just fun. I think he did introduce quite a few new things without them being game-breaking. The whole brittle mechanic, I don't think we've seen since Ornn, of being able to apply this debuff that slightly extends the duration of CC. The ult is absolutely game-changing, but can be messed up easily if you just crowd control him during it, or the Ornn player themselves could just mess it up. Also, having his kit tie into the whole lore of him literally fighting the earth, creating terrain while simultaneously destroying terrain. It's all great stuff. That's always why I've had to wonder, though, why is Ornn so unloved? I feel like he's so good in every aspect. He's fun, he's always useful, he looks cool, he sounds cool. The very few skins that he has are amazing, despite the fact that Yone got as many in 10 months as he's gotten through his entire existence. Obviously, we know Choo Choo Ornn is incredible, but I also think Elderwood Ornn goes underappreciated primarily because I think it just has one of the best selection of chromas on the whole market. I never understood why Ornn was so unpopular. He seems like he's got everything going rooting for him. If the Aurora comic's anything to go by, it just makes me hope that Ornn gets more love in the future. What the hell? Because I think he really deserves it. I think he's an absolutely incredible champion, and I want more demigods, please. I really want the Ironborn, the Steel Sister in the game. You guys have no idea. But thank you, fellas, for watching this week's casual champion review on Ornn. Next week will be... Oh, it's Pantheon. He's on my team. Yeah, we're going Pantheon. Good old Atreus next week. Go from a demigod to a character who kills gods. But thank you, fellas, for watching this week's casual champion review, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. All right? Goodbye.
Ornn!